How to snag a free apartment from Romka Vasilenko? Here you are, 30 million. You come to their company, pay 2,000 euros, yeah, for some reason euros. Our cooperative will go down in history of cooperation. Then you keep paying off the rest without interest, but there's a catch. The last people who came for apartments, they ended up with nothing. I've known him for over 20 years. My biggest wish is for my parents, actually. You know, they're so stressed out, mom can't sleep, they're scraping together every penny because they think bailiffs will slap them with all these costs. They wish our pensions wouldn't even cover food. So there are people ready to file a complaint addressed to Ahmadulin. Can we press charges? Can we make him a suspect after that? For goddamn sake, lady! And another organization, Hermes, that I've mentioned before, was also operating. You could either toss in cash or bring in new people and earn a cut. Heck, you could even bring someone who's getting an apartment and you'd still get your commission. Classic Ponzi scheme.
They've been fucking investigating Vasilenko for 3 years now. And this is the same scam. Almost identical.
Thousands of purchased apartments and happy shareholders. Well, the last 3 years have honestly been nothing but stress for me and my parents. I'm originally from Almetyevsk, the small town in Tatarstan. Since 2014, I've been living in Kazan, working at TV channels like Efir and TNV. Then in 2015, something terrible happened in our family, although thank God we got through it. My son was suddenly diagnosed with a brain tumor. He was only 15 years old, and everything turned upside down. Since then, it's been MRI scans, medication, and like constant checkups, and the doctor said the diagnosis could come back, like a relapse. But for a while things were fine, and still it became a turning point for us. And the doctors recommended moving to a more favorable region. They suggested Crimea, saying it would be good for rehabilitation and overall health. And in 2019, my son and my parents, while I stayed working in Kazan, they moved to Crimea almost permanently. That's when housing became an issue since they were renting an apartment. Although in Kazan I had an apartment and my parents owned a house in the Almetyevsk area, so they decided to sell the house to settle down properly in Crimea. And since I'm their only child and my son is their only grandchild, they couldn't be without us. And eventually we managed to buy an apartment in Alushta in Crimea. I was finally offered a job at Crimea 24 TV channel in Simferopol, so I moved too. And, you know, somehow it felt like divine timing. I arrived just in time, because my son had a relapse. He collapsed, he had a seizure. We quickly got him an MRI, found a quota, and managed to fly him to St. Petersburg for surgery. So the end of 2020 wasn't great, but then 2021 came and rehab began in Crimea. We all moved together, but housing was still an issue. And that's when our family friend, someone my parents had known for ages, who'd also been close with their parents, stepped in. I'd known him too. He told me he'd been working for Life is Good for a long time. Hold on, so who was this family friend? Let's name his name. Should I just say it outright? So this friend was a resident of Almetyevsk. His name was Kulmetov Ruden Maratovich. He was born in 1964. He seemed like a respectable guy. Spent his whole life working in the oil industry, but at some point he decided to go independent, so to speak. He got into trading, started buying stocks, and recently he began talking to my parents and to me about his work at Life is Good. From around 2019, he'd casually bring it up during conversations. Even when we were selling the house in the Almetyevsk region, he suggested investing that money in Life is Good. But thankfully, my mom decided to buy an apartment in Alushta in Crimea, as I mentioned before, so they could be closer to my son. After my grandson's brain surgery, the tumor couldn't be completely removed. The doctors warned us that he might lose his sight. So a part of the tumor remained, and 5 years later it came back. That was in August 2020. After another emergency surgery, we sold everything we had. We were 75 years old at that time. In 2021, 8 months post surgery, we were undergoing rehabilitation at a sanatorium, and there we bumped into Kulmetov Ruden. And that guy, we just saw how he lived, fancy car, constant vacations. We started sort of believing in it, in what he was saying. He'd been pitching this to us for 3 years, and in 2021 we finally accepted because we needed housing. He explained that Life is Good was an international holding company that included the interregional cooperative Best Way, headquartered in St. Petersburg, and the investment analytical firm called Hermes, supposedly based in Austria. Later, I realized it was just a front to lure people in, like moths to a flame. It's obvious, right? Everyone wants to improve their living situation. Most ordinary people don't have stacks of cash lying around. They think, why not invest at a profit? But improving housing conditions, that's something many people dream of. And so they kind of leaned on that. They'd say, look at your oppressive mortgage. Your apartment will end up costing 2 to 3 times more in the end. But here, they'd show videos and photos of that Vasilenko guy, the company president, and he was described as an honest naval officer. They always pushed this narrative, planting the idea that it was a very family-oriented business. His mom and dad are involved, they'd say. This cooperative is for the people. That's what they told us. An officer of naval aviation is now tied to a multi-billion-dollar fraud case. They promised a 10-year payment plan, same monthly payment the whole time. You pay, say, 35% of the future apartment's cost up front, they put you in line, and then you make payments over the next 10 years. But those payments weren't small, It was not like just $100 a month. And here's where the investments come into play. They tell you your money needs to work for you. And that's where Hermes comes in, with those so-called Vista Euro accounts. So basically, you give them rubles, and somehow they convert them into euros in these accounts. So in 2021, Kulmetov came to Crimea with his parents for a vacation, and my mom and son were also vacationing there. And my mom shared our family's plans, how we needed to provide housing for me and my son. That's when the decision was made to sell the apartment in Kazan. We needed to buy a place in Simferopol, and we'd already been renting for 2 years by then. So basically, you wanted to sell the apartment to invest in the housing cooperative, right? Or... Exactly, yeah, we were only thinking about the cooperative at that point. We weren't even considering Vista Euro accounts or anything like that. But Kulmetov kept bringing it up, saying he had an account there himself and he was earning income. He didn't trust any banks. But here, everything worked like clockwork. Slowly but steadily, he said. So everything was great, according to him. So we decided to sell the apartment. My dad, who already had hearing issues, he was officially declared disabled. We also decided to sell their old car. It was a Duster, nothing fancy. Kulmetov himself saw it. He saw how my grandson's blood pressure was dropping. How he couldn't even lift his head. We gave away every penny from selling the car just to secure housing and help our grandson. And he took advantage of that. So they gave him the money, almost $7,000. He took the cash and said, like, at least let me set it up so the interest for your pension will return. And so wait, so that's how he roped your parents into Vista, into Hermes, right? Exactly, yeah. And me too. I actually forgot about this. Before I moved to Crimea in winter 2020, he came from Almatyevsk to Kazan, I remember that. He told me, "You're going to Crimea soon. I won't be able to find you later. Let me set up an account for you now." Came with his laptop and we sat somewhere in a shopping mall. And I told him, "Look, I don't have any money, you know that." And he was like, "That's fine, just open the account. It doesn't commit you to anything right now." So I kind of agreed. He took my passport for some reason. He kept repeating, "See, it's all the passport, everything is legal." I told him again that I don't have any money to put in it, but he said, "No problem." And fast forward to the summer of 2021, supposedly his boss, a director of some consultant of the fifth level, would put money into the account for me. I remember thinking, how is he going to deposit money? Does he actually work in Austria? Maybe he has a license or something? But no, he said, it's simple. For Russians, everything's streamlined. It's all handled through us, the managers. Yeah, I understand how it works. Let me clarify for the viewers here. So when people gave money to this Ponzi scheme, it didn't go to an official cooperative account like it would in Life is Good. They just handed cash over to someone and somehow it ended up, well, who knows where. Yeah, but we completely trusted Kulmetov back then. He even said, "I'll be your guarantor." Yeah, yeah, I see. He was from the same town and everyone knows everyone. Yeah, exactly. I remember him calling his superior, that Rais Akhmadulin guy. He was old enough to be my father, actually. And I overheard the entire conversation. He said, "Rais, I found some clients." And over the phone, Akhmadulin asked, "Do you have the money?" He was like, "Yes, I do." "Is it cash?" "Yes, cash." After the conversation ended, I said, "Your boss sounds pretty strict." And he replied, "Yeah, he was my boss back when we worked at a gas processing plant together." So you see, both of them were oil industry guys, so I believed him even more. We have a company there, Tatneft. It's a big, reputable brand. I thought there's no way scammers could work there.
He'd swear by God when he visited us, and of course we trusted Kulmetov more than anyone else, because we'd known him for over 20 years, right? Our families were close, you know, we celebrated Eid al-Adha together. I sacrificed the cattle and killed the sheep, and out of 6 people, I gave the meat to Kulmetov. And you only give that sacred meat to your closest people, you know? That's how much we trusted him. And look how wrong we were. He's just nothing but scum. Nothing but scum. And we trusted him. He once said he was bragging, like, you know, my company, this and that. I have a $3,000 pension monthly. And I was like, $3,000? Even ministers don't get that much. And he'd always swear by God. So yeah, we'd known each other for 20 years, right? So he knew everything about us, about what happened to our grandson, and he saw how hard things were for us and for him after the surgery, how tough it was for us all, you know? He knew that. He was very well aware of all this, yet he used it to his advantage, offering his help, so to speak, to invest the money, knowing we were going to sell the Kazan apartment. By early 2020, they didn't even have a license. Their license was gone. And by October 17, 2021, the whole structure didn't exist anymore. He quickly got in touch with Akhmadulin, and they started pressuring us, saying, "This is the best way to invest your money. You have to act fast before the new year. After the new year, this opportunity will be gone." And Akhmadulin was just his boss. His head, kinda. So how does that even make sense? Successful entrepreneurs like them chasing after pensioners and a woman who literally says, "I have no money," and they call you and they're like thrilled. That looks weird. Yeah, you see, they both seemed quite wealthy, and you'd never think they could be scammers.
Kulmetov always spoke in this smooth, reassuring tone. I've lived my life. My mission now is to help people. Turns out that was his help. They called my parents relentlessly while they were heading off to sell the apartment. Ahmadulin even visited, met them, drank tea with them, and stayed for 3 hours.
And did you tell him about your son's condition, your struggles?
Sure, we did. We explained everything, and still,
And despite all that, he still decided they're vulnerable, now's the time to strike. They'll fall for anything right now, right?
Yes, that's exactly what happened. We were too distressed to think critically. I analyzed it all later, but back then, we trusted Kulmetov completely. And Ahmadulin was like, you trust her then, right? Don't you? Then why are you doubting us? And I was like, we kind of trust, but we need housing. We need it now. What? Why should we wait? And he said, I'll explain everything in person. You are far away in Crimea, but if you came to our seminars and presentations, you'd understand. But don't worry, we're coming soon. And they did. They came to Yalta. As I realized later, it was one of their last events.
Was it some sort of a conference, right?
They called it a director's ball.
A ball?
Yeah, a ball sounds like something that Vasilenko could definitely arrange. Yes, exactly. That was so funny. And they even said, like, we're practically doing this just for you. You're so lucky. You can attend for free. I asked, how's that? And he replied, our senior boss, Rinat Ganiyev, so his wife kind of got sick, so you'll take her spot. And normally, it's impossible to get into this conference.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rinat Ganiyev. Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the international holding Life is Good, Roman Vasilenko. Good evening, esteemed directors. I see and hear you perfectly. A special thanks for gathering together. Right now, there are 37 new level 6 directors and 9 new level 8 directors in this hall. This means success is already here, and it deserves a round of applause.
Since I'd been living in Crimea for about a year by then, I really missed being around people from my homeland. Being there made me feel even more trusting. But it wasn't just people from Tatarstan, there were folks from all over the place.
And was Vasilenko there?
Nope, he wasn't there. There was Radik Ahmadinov on the stage.
Roman Vasilenko. This man is an officer. Over many years of knowing him, I've never had a reason to doubt his words. He's a man of honor, of his word, a man of action. The idea of a single person managed to change thousands of lives.
They practically worshipped him. People were taking photos. People were like, is he really Vasilenko's right-hand man? They called him their master. And the second one was Anatoly Nalivan. Do you know him? He's in a pre-trial detention now. So there were 6,000 people in the hall. And how many of those were your people?
Around 700 or 800. Director of Life is Good, Anatoly Nalivan. Radik, Anatoly, I'm addressing you personally. You are achieving success. You're doing excellent work. Our collaboration continues.
So yeah,
That director's ball was basically just a cash grab.
and they used my son to pressure me, saying things like, you need money for medicine, for rehabilitation. They kept saying, you need investments to make this happen. We'll teach you how to invest properly. You'll have a plan. Let go of your doubts. Now, anytime someone tells me, let go of your doubts, I immediately think scammer. That's it. Better paranoid than scammed.
How much did you invest?
So after the ball, they told me, yeah, and it wasn't just manipulation, it was December 2021, just days before the year ended, and they said, you have a unique opportunity. Just deposit 9,000 euros and you'll immediately get access to a special gift account in euro, like that Vista account, which is a tax-free account. And the rest of the money from selling your apartment, by the way, they already knew that we were selling it. They hounded us daily. Sell faster, sell cheaper, you need to make it into this offer. They even guilt-tripped my mom, saying, you only have one daughter, don't you want her to be happy? They called her every day in December, and we found a buyer. At the end of December, the very last days of the year, my mom handed 52,000 euros to Kulmetov. Thankfully, she had the sense to get a receipt from him. He said, if you buy it yourself, you'll waste the money. You won't have anything left for your child's treatment. But this way, you'll have both. He asked, what's more important? Your child's life or just an apartment? We did want to buy a place ourselves. We didn't trust them completely. But he saw right through us. And that same day, they literally pocketed the money. As for the remaining amount, 11,000 euros, I transferred it to the cooperative's account. Thankfully, I still have the payment records from my Tinkoff card. They even referenced interviews with Posner saying, look at that kind of people involved. You're a TV professional. You should know better. Look at Solovyov, happy homeowners. They said you can even use maternity capital through the pension fund, and I believed it would work. Okay, hold on. So what was the total amount you gave with the receipt included? Oh, let's see. So 6,500 euros plus 52,000 euros to the consultants. Altogether 58,000 euros plus another 11,000 euros I put into the cooperative. So it's almost 70,000 euros. So it was from selling your apartment in Kazan. Yeah. So what happened next? Look, you've got the receipt, right? And if he's not denying the debt, then technically it's a civil case and he could just drag out paying you back forever. But if he took your money under that receipt, promising to invest it in, say, stock trading, and there wasn't actually any stock trading, if it was a pyramid like Ponzi scheme where payouts were coming from new people's money, that's already criminal fraud under Article 159. He took your property through deception and abuse of trust, used it for something other than what he promised. So why didn't they open a criminal case? Or did they actually refuse you? You mentioned there were some issues. No, look. So, okay, 2021 ended, and January 2022 came around. We waited until the end of the month. It was 25th. I called Rais and asked him, is there any income? And he was like, Valerie, dear, sometimes it happens that at the beginning of the year, there's a negative profitability, no income yet. Mom was already starting to get nervous. Wait, negative profitability? What does that even mean? Well, as I understand it, like, since it's a foreign company, I don't know, something about the global market. Yeah, but wait, didn't they promise guarantees or did they avoid that? Yeah, they promised guarantees. They said there was a special reserve fund. But just like last year, it's the same this year. They said you'll get everything in February. Ah, so it's like the money didn't work good on the market yet, right? Yes, exactly. They promised that I'd start earning $2,000 a month in February. They even said you can quit your job. And I was like, no, hold on, I'm not quitting anything yet. So then February came, the special military operation started, and that was it. I was reading the chats they'd added me to earlier. Suddenly there was panic. Websites stopped working, both the cooperative site and others. I immediately called Akhmadulin and Kulmetov. Kulmetov said, look, the military operation has just started and you're talking to me about money? Akhmadulin was like, I don't get anything either, I'm just a client like you are. Basically, they both played dumb. We just have to wait, sort of thing, you know? So they didn't really say anything. They lulled us into complacency. But at the end of 2022, I finally wrote a request to leave the cooperative. I decided not to buy an apartment in such an unreliable scheme, you know. And so when you submit a request to leave, are they obligated to return your money? Yes, they are obligated by contract to return the money within 2 months. But they didn't return anything. They claimed that their accounts, where the money had been deposited, were all under investigation. And that's when I found out that the criminal case had been opened. And Andrei, listen to this, criminal cases against Hermes, Best Way and Life is Good had already been initiated in October 2021. The central bank had blacklisted them in November 2021. Yet those consultants, let's not call them scammers just yet, consultants, they pushed us into the scheme in December. And by then there were no payouts, no withdrawals, as they call them, since the summer of 2021. We were just used as victims, so they could pull out their own money. And later I learned that those virtual Vista accounts weren't issued to them unless they brought in new people. Classic Ponzi scheme. And Kulmetov even tried to discourage us, saying, Valerie, you can go to court, of course, or the police, but it's pointless. No one forced you at gunpoint. You wanted this yourself, and you'll lose. But we still filed a report with the police. My mom brought the receipts. They accepted it and opened a criminal case in the jurisdiction of the defendants. So the case was opened against him, right? Not not against him specifically. The report itself said unidentified individuals. Yeah, that's always how it starts, unidentified individuals. But yeah, the criminal case was initiated. But you had the receipt with his name on it, right? So over time, did they identify him? I mean, the receipt had his name on it, right? No, not at all. This was in May 2023, now it's almost December 2024. Over a year and a half, the case has been a mess. Halted, reopened, halted again. We're on the third investigator, blah blah blah. They're still listed as unidentified individuals. But at least they were interrogated. The latest investigator did interrogate them, but as witnesses. I was called for a face-to-face confrontation. I traveled from Crimea in August 2024 to meet with Akhmadulin personally. And Akhmadulin admitted, yes, I took your money and kept it for myself. And I'm like, please, so how could he admit that, considering he kept saying over the phone that the money was being traded or invested, and now he says he took it for himself? Exactly, but the investigator who was running the confrontation, he knew that he was lying. He even said, like, I know it, but I cannot prove it. So my lawyer from Kazan and his lawyer were there. They exchanged glances, and it was obvious how nervous he was. He was sweating, his eyes darting around, fiddling with his hands. The man was lying. It was plain as day, but they couldn't do anything about it. The confrontation ended, the investigator resigned, and that was it. Wait, I still don't get it. There are so many cases where people take money with the receipts for one thing, but end up using it for something else. You see? For example, someone borrows money to build a house, but gambles it away instead. That's not civil legislation, it's fraud. If the money was taken for one purpose but used for another, it's a criminal case. At the very least, they could have filed a civil claim. Did they? Yes, we filed a civil case too in 2023. My mom submitted it. We made countless trips, spent so much money. It was just insane. Yeah, it's crazy. So I filed a claim in civil court.
Hello, Georgy Moiseev here, a shareholder in the Best Way cooperative and a professional lawyer.
Moiseev himself showed up in the court hallway and said to me, like, you lost the case. You'll pay court fees and our legal costs.
I am Georgy Moiseev from Volzhsk, Mariel Republic. In Russia, I've been a satisfied shareholder in Best Way since 2020. The cooperative's legitimate operations allowed me to buy an apartment in Yoshkar Ola. The cooperative has worked flawlessly for 7 years. I trust its management completely. I want to live in the apartment I legally purchased and not have my civil rights infringed upon. I believe that being blacklisted by the central bank contradicts the facts of the cooperative's operations.
So when the court hearing began, I told my story. The judge didn't like my speech, and then she kicked me out of the courtroom. I listened through the door as Akhmadulin claimed that the structure was still operational, even though it had ceased to exist in 2021. The judge couldn't ask for or demand any legal documents proving where our money went.
We have achieved such huge results. Thousands of purchased apartments, thousands of happy shareholders.
The judge, Gafurova from Almetevsk, she was running the session and she kicked my mom out of the courtroom. I don't know what happened, but our representative, Dmitry Koblenz, a lawyer from Almetevsk, he later told me, make sure your mom doesn't attend the next hearing, or I'm dropping your case. Our representative, he instantly sold himself to the defendants. He remained silent, didn't support me, didn't object to anything really, even when I was kicked out of the courtroom. We paid this man $500. We paid $500 just to file the claim. And in court, he sat there silently, as he didn't say a word. And the person who we paid money just said so. We were shocked. I didn't. But hold on, was there a reason for kicking your mom out? Did they explain? Did they say anything? No explanation. The judge just decided so. Yes, and they didn't tell us anything. And actually, they made a decision that the next hearing would proceed in August without my mom. And I think it's a violation of her legal rights, right? How can you make a ruling without the plaintiff present? And so, what was the final decision? The court rejected the claim. The judge rescheduled the session from July 10 to 19th. So, I bought a ticket for July 22nd, and later I found out that that date, December 19th.
You mean July?
Yes, July, sorry. So the session was rescheduled for August the 2nd. By then, I was out of money already, and I had a return ticket. And so, this way they arranged everything so I couldn't attend the session. And eventually, on August the 2nd, they ruled in favor of the criminal defendants.
In court, they pointed out that she wasn't actually a victim in the criminal case, as she hadn't incurred any expenses or suffered any losses. Essentially, they said that she hadn't been impacted, and her status as a victim in this case became more uncertain. The court concluded that she had failed in her attempt to accuse respectable people from Tatarstan of wrongdoing. The matter was resolved.
Even though we had a receipt showing that Kulmetov received the money and passed it on to Ahmadulin for investment, they were aware of this and we were not. And on this basis, the court ruled in favor of the defense, as the claims were supported by evidence, while the documents presented by the other side lacked proper stamps or signatures.
Our cooperative will go down in history of books on cooperation, and our work model is already being copied all around the world. Congratulations. So basically you had a receipt and a confession that he took the money, right? But even in civil court you didn't really get anywhere, right? Why? Andrei, at that time there wasn't any confession. The confession appeared only during face-to-face confrontation. Oh, you mean when the main case was opened, right? Yeah. In court, they admitted that he wrote the receipt and took the money, but they claimed, we invested the money in Hermes. I still cannot wrap my head around why the judge believed them and didn't request any documentation proving the accounts existed. Where are those accounts? What are the names? Where's the blue stamp and bank details? I don't know. Nothing was provided, and still they won. I just don't understand how this happened. We filed appeals, but they didn't help either. And we even went to the Supreme Court. And they also rejected us. So the civil procedure was not on our side. She even went to the Supreme Court, saying they'll sort it out there. Well, the Supreme Court did sort it out. They outright refused to accept her complaint in the first place. The reason was simple. Everything had already been reviewed and ruled on lawfully. Now she's becoming a suspect in a new case herself, because a new claim has been filed against her this time for making a false accusation.
And when we lost our case in 2023, those people, can you believe the audacity? I don't even have a word for this. I don't know. They filed a counterclaim against my parents, demanding some kind of reimbursement for their legal fees. Yeah, classic. And I lost my patience there.
Those Akhmadulin and Kulmetov, I forgot to say this. They're trying to squeeze money from us, from pensioners, from retirees, so that we wouldn't even have money for food. And that's what they're doing. As if they lost so much money on their legal costs. I don't know what to say. So that we wouldn't even have money for sending a letter.
And so they sent my parents a letter through Russian post this year saying the money would be deducted from their pensions monthly. They claimed almost $3,000. That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy because he basically lives in the same town, he knows what's happened to your son, he's pressuring on this, and then he himself ironically encourages you to go to court. And then when the court takes their side, they're claiming money from you. It's fucking nasty. It is, Andrei. Like, almost $3,000. I almost immediately reached out to my colleagues, hoping public outcry might help. And it seemed to work out because I was invited to St. Petersburg for a court session in July this year. So I went there. It was a criminal case session regarding those 10 scammers already in custody. I testified there as a witness, explaining I was a shareholder who believed their operations were illegal. At that time, there was no official ruling about the cooperative, though. I remember those cult-like supporters of the cooperative attacked me. Their lawyer, Moiseev, started a smear campaign against me in the media. And that lady, Lira Sakhapova, who basically robbed her own parents of their money and set them up, is now recording videos about it. She's even a TV host on some channel. She's trying to save his son's life.
And that dirty fraudster saying things like that simply to justify the fact that they stole all the money.
Oh, you're digging your grave deeper and deeper, smearing reputations. Couldn't prove anything in court, could you? That's on you. But you're making a big mistake pulling this stunt, you know? It's just wrong. Refunds? Really, forget about it. Don't call me, neither my clients, my staff. We're done with this, end of story. Chill out. Ponzi scheme, you're saying? What's Ponzi? There's no Ponzi or any pyramid schemes. Everything's working perfectly, the company's back on track, everything's fine. Stop stirring things up. It's wrong. You are already sinking down and trying to drag others down.
Meanwhile, while editing, I discovered some information. Kulmetov, Akhmadulin, and Ganiev, all three were just a trio of pyramid recruiters for Life is Good under Vasilenko. And the investigators, the guys who are investigating the case, they have a special Telegram channel. I will share a link. So they had this full diagram showing the flow of money from 100,000 participants of the Ponzi scheme up to Vasilenko. Can you imagine that? And that's just under those three guys. And now only imagine how much trouble has the entire pyramid brought to people. And some of them are still living in those apartments, they paying for that. They'll eventually have to move out, because it was purchased through cooperative.
We're scraping by on pensions. And we inviting kids. And this the only money we have. We're running out of money. Pension to pension. And they still want to grab that last bit of it.
She herself robbed her parents and set them up. You hear how cynical that is? It's just... What the fuck is this? Can a lawyer say things like that? Oh dear, lawyers can say anything they want. Basically. And screw them. Let me ask you one more thing. So were you called as a witness in St. Petersburg, not as a victim, right? No, I'm not recognized as a victim at all. I filed to be recognized as a victim, and the investigator initially assured me that they would include my mom's case and recognize me as a victim. After all, I have a proof of payment. But then they sent me an official letter stating that under Article 172, I think it was, there are no victims, so I'm just a witness. So how am I supposed to claim my money back? They said go to civil court. And you see, I now I've borrowed some money. Money I don't even have anymore. To file a case in Primorsky court, St. Petersburg, against the cooperative when I found out it was illegal. But I'm terrified. What if they reject me again? Oh Lord. During the confrontation, he admitted to taking the money and keeping it for himself, and that he had no legal documents to back up his actions. When we requested the documentation, he couldn't provide it. He provided nothing, and he is 100% sure he will get away with it. So there are two parallel cases going on right now. The first is the criminal case against Life is Good and Hermes, and the second one is the civil case against Best Way. And on November the 7th, the court ruled the cooperative's operations illegal. Yeah, finally. And so you showed up there, showed the receipt, and the name of the person was there, and he admitted, right, that he had taken the money. Nah, not really. That was in July, but the confrontation happened in August, unfortunately. If it had happened a little bit earlier, I might have mentioned it in court. And even after sending a letter to the Supreme Court saying that Akhmadulin himself admitted to taking the money, they still ignored us. They turned a blind eye on us. Okay, so theoretically, let's say I work for a pyramid scheme, hypothetically, okay? And so let's say I took 6 million rubles from your parents. I can easily claim that I put it into pyramid scheme and not owe you anything? Yes, exactly, that's how it works. And no proof. At the confrontation, I asked for any documents proving the accounts were opened. They didn't provide anything. And the lawyer said that at least he should now be considered a suspect. And here comes that infamous video of the investigator and his thoughts about it. The one who quit right after that. Fucking Finiko, goddammit, why the fuck is it being investigated? Finiko's being investigated by the investigative department, collecting cases from all over Russia. Why the fuck isn't anyone dividing it up, like assigning one director here, another director there, and charging them by the damn law? 3 fucking years investigating Finiko. Same Ponzi scheme, almost the exact same setup. Why the fuck are they taking statements in St. Petersburg but not a damn one here? Couldn't a single one of these assholes write a statement like, in St. Petersburg there's a criminal case number so-and-so being investigated against the leadership of such and such group. I demand that Khalikova be recognized as a victim of goddamn Vasilenko's actions and the case be sent there for consolidation. And prove that some lone fucker like Akhmadulin couldn't possibly be acting alone. Fucking hell. It's the fucking fault of the Almetievsk investigators that this shit wasn't dealt with on time and the episode wasn't sent to St. Petersburg for consolidation. That's where the fuck up is, with the investigative unit in Almetievsk. If you're all so fucking smart, then sit your asses down and investigate. Just sit down and fucking do it. If every one of you thinks you're a goddamn genius in criminal law, then pick up the case and fucking solve it. Well, I'm sorry, but we've got people ready to write a statement against Akhmadulin. Can we make him a suspect after that? Oh, god damn it. Take criminal procedure code. Show me where the hell it says that criminal cases are initiated and sent to court based on the number of victims or complainants. Where? Okay, but how are we supposed to prove the crime? Here you go again, lady. I'm telling you one thing and you're talking about something completely different. This kind of back and forth is gonna drag on for fucking years. And that fucking Best Way housing cooperative and Life is Good. Until we get proper testimonies, not a single goddamn judge is gonna convict your fucking Akhmadulin guy. And it will need to be confirmed during a goddamn confrontation too. But without proper testimonies. Not a damn soul is sending this shit to court.
And even the police lieutenant colonel had to resign.
Yes, after this case, he quit. And once again, his report was saying unidentified individuals and unidentified location. How can they call it unidentified when everything is already clear? This is the kind of situation we're dealing with. I believe Almetievsk is deeply corrupt. The prosecutor's office is on our side. They're trying to do something, but they cannot act against those people. And even though Ahmadulin admitted during the confrontation in August that they had taken the money, the case still lists them as unidentified individuals in an unidentified location. Well, isn't it easier to file cases not just against the main leaders, but also against the recruiters? That way people might get their money back faster if they report the person who recruited them, right? Yes, exactly. We've already formed a support group of victims and we're discussing the same thing. Like, why aren't they questioning the recruiters who got us involved? Back in Tatarstan, only my mom's report led to a case being opened. But there are so many victims there. Others were simply turned away. So everyone was deceived. There are receipts, proof that people accepted money directly. At the very least, they could be charged for illegal business activities, right? And they swore that they would personally guarantee if anything goes wrong. And that Ahmadulin guy told my parents, I swear to God, everything will be fine. Okay, so where are you now, legally speaking? What stage is your case at? Well, my mom is listed as a victim in a criminal case in Almetievsk, but it's completely stagnant. I'm just a witness in the third criminal case in St. Petersburg, and from what I know, there are over 14 open criminal cases involving Life is Good, Hermes and Best Way. But we're all hoping, like we've written letters, numerous letters to the prosecutor's office of Tatarstan and the main investigative department in Tatarstan, asking them to investigate our case properly. Oh, also I forgot to mention one thing, Andrei. After the court decision on November the 7th declaring the cooperative illegal, I wrote a pretrial claim on November 11th asking for my money back. And then on November 17th, I wrote to the cooperative's chairman, Kruchik. I managed to get his official phone number, and he responded, I saved all the screenshots because he later deleted the correspondence. He responded something like, you're not owed anything. You withdrew your claim in 2023. You will be emailed and receive a scan of your withdrawal form. And so they sent me a document with my forged signature. Oh, that's exactly what Gafarov and partners pulled. They claimed that anyone who filed police reports now owed them money instead of the other way around. Yeah, but they quickly changed their stance. They said, alright, we'll cancel that, you're still in line to leave the cooperative. But it's not our fault, yada yada. Bullshit. Okay, so who do you think has the bulk of all the money now? What do you think? Well, I guess Vasilenko took a significant part of it. Those so-called masters ran off, they all scattered like rats when things heated up. But the police did the right thing by freezing the accounts. At one point, they even tried to manipulate people into protesting in the streets with flags and stuff, claiming it was government overreach. But I told them in court, you were operating illegally. Oh wait, so what you're saying is that they were calling for protests when the case was opened? Yes, there were rallies in various cities. There are photos online everywhere.
We are shareholders of the Best Way cooperative from Volsk, Mariel Republic.
We are shareholders from Yekaterinburg.
We are members of the Best Way cooperative in Ivanovo City.
Cooperative Best Way. We are shareholders of the Best Way. We are Best Way shareholders. We are shareholders of...
Please draw your attention to us.
Okay, so when they took cash for Hermes, where do you think it went? What did it turn into? Were they just delivering bags of money to Vasilenko or what? Yeah, you know, I spoke to many people during my own journalistic investigation, and that's exactly what happened. The money moved up the pyramid, and it worked just as you described. Some of the money was even being sent by private planes. But it worked right until Vasilenko fled. When things started to heat up, panic broke out. Withdrawals from these so-called magical Eurovista accounts stopped completely and people couldn't get their money out. And so all those local recruiters, this all happened during the summer, in August, right around when it all began falling apart. First they took the money from the sale of my parents' car, then the rest. And I believe that by December, when withdrawals had already stopped, our recruiters simply kept the money. And before that, they were naturally sending it up the pyramid to Vasilenko. Okay, so what's up with Vasilenko now? Is he still in London? I heard that he was there. Yes, they say he's under British legal protection. But you know what? When I was. Wait, hold on. How did they just simply welcome a Russian officer like that? With what, like 18,000 victims, right? Probably even more by now. But wait, in media I keep seeing like 18,000 victims. Is that total? Yeah, from all the reports being filed. Since the cooperative was declared illegal, there's been a flood of complaints. And this is just the beginning. It's really some kind of scam of the century. And what kind of officer would betray his own parents like that? Today, the police announced the detention of Roman Vasilenko's father.
Yesterday, at Pulkovo airport, 80-year-old Viktor Vasilenko was detained. In these photographs, he is seen with his son and wife, all dressed in the ceremonial uniforms of the Navy. The three of them served in the fleet. The retiree was holding tickets to the United Arab Emirates, but this was far from a tourist trip, it was an attempted escape. This comes just days after a court imposed restrictions on his freedom, prohibiting certain actions, as the naval aviation officer is also implicated in a multi-billion-dollar fraud case. You have to be prepared for losses.
I saw the old man, Vasilenko's father, sitting there in court. He looked so frail, but he still had to show up. How can anyone do this to their own parents? He just ran off, leaving them behind. Look, his parents seem to have genuinely served in the naval aviation, but he was just a boy growing up and benefiting from their reputation. So he kinda used their military status to boost himself. Yeah, probably. I don't know, maybe he did serve just long enough to put on a uniform and earn some medals. But then he simply started using that image, right? Yeah. In those white uniforms and stuff. Yeah, he simply used their legacy, dragged them into this mess and ruined everything. It's typical of these golden youth types. Their living situation is more than good, but they always want more. He had the connections, the network, he could have opened any legitimate business. Sure, he wouldn't have made as much as with the Ponzi scheme, but still, he had every opportunity, contacts, resources, maybe even access to loans and investors. He had all of it. And instead, he betrayed his family and ran off. Whether to London or somewhere else, but is that really life? No, it's not. It's yet another example of a spoiled kid using his parents, climbing to the top on their shoulders and leaving them to face the consequences. By the way, have you ever met Vasilenko in person? Anywhere, maybe? No, I haven't. They just showed me his photos. He even got a photo with Donald Trump during Trump's first campaign. Yeah, I remember that story. Through an American acquaintance, he attended one of Trump's events and paid $100,000 or $200,000 for the photo. And then he told everyone that Trump had personally listened to his story about the cooperative and was thrilled by it. But of course we know how these things work. Maybe Trump did listen, but it was probably for 2 minutes, half-heartedly, before moving on to the next person. And so Vasilenko made this all up and used it to lure even more people into his Ponzi scheme. The meeting between Roman Vasilenko and Donald Trump is portrayed as proof of Life is Good's success and its president's elite status in the global MLM industry. I only hope for my parents to be good. They're so worried. My mom cannot sleep. They've been saving every penny because they think the court fees will be pinned on them soon. I just want them to find peace. Of course, I hope I'll eventually have my own home, but first I want my parents to be okay. I just want justice.
I thought that during such a difficult time we'd get help, but it turned out the opposite. We were left without money and a home. And we even wrote to the Supreme Court, but they didn't do much of anything. And I've lost all faith in justice. I've lost it, honestly. But what I do believe in is God. God will punish them all. I'm sure of it. God is the same for everyone. Yep, the religions are different, but God is one. I have this dream. Someday, when something happens to Kulmetov, whether it's cancer or another illness, I don't know, I want to stand before him and look him in the eye and see how he reacts with all his millions and billions of money. That's my dream. That's it.
It's the fucking fault of the Almetyevsk investigators that this shit wasn't dealt with on time and the episode wasn't sent to St. Petersburg for consolidation. That's where the fuck up is, with the investigative unit in Almetyevsk.